And welcome back to Survivor 46 and 46. Jam Jam just won Survivor 44 in a season that I'm not gonna lie. As I started the day, I was not enjoying on a rewatch, but it definitely grew on me at a certain point in the season, and I want to get right into it. Today we're joined by both Austin and Ingrid. Thank you so much for joining me on my, I guess this is my penultimate way of doing, because day 46 is going to be a live stream. So this is my penultimate episode of doing it like this. So thank you both for joining me, and we'll just go right into the first question that we started all of these with. What were y'all's first thoughts when the season aired? You know, specifically when the cast was announced. Do you guys pay attention to that aspect? Were there people that you were excited to see? And what did you think of the season as a whole the first time you watched?
Yeah, so at least for us, we spoil ourselves a little bit on the cast, at least for our own personal draft. We use the Inside Survivor website with that, post the cast as soon as they go out to Fiji.
Get back. Oh yeah,
yeah. So as soon as those come out and we just have their pictures and names and occupations and ages, we do our draft for the season of who we think's going to win. And I know I took no, you actually had first pick, Ingrid, and you took Carson.
Because I didn't think you were going to take him.
I didn't think I was going to take Jam Jam.
I didn't think you were going to do it.
Jam with the second pick overall, but
you hurt my soul.
And then when 43 ended and they showed us the preview, I immediately was in love with Jam Jam. Like, I was so excited for the season, the cast, and it is. I just went to double check the Survivor rankings that I did recently. 44 is my favorite new era season, and for me, it's a lot of the cast that carries it there.
And I would say that the cast, once the merge hits, like the people that survive, you know, whatever that pre-merge was, I do feel like they definitely do stand out. Watching it this morning, the first problem that I had is I got Ghost Island vibes on the marooning, because I'm looking at the cast. I'm like, I don't remember half of these people. Well, it turns out I just don't remember most of the pre-mergers, because I remembered everyone that I was supposed to remember, but I'm looking at everyone else. I'm like, I have no Sarah. There was nothing went off in my head of like, oh yeah, like Sarah. There was just a blank spot there, and then Helen, was it Helen?
Helen's probably my blank spot if I was gonna name someone blank spot. Probably
no
Helen.
Way that you actually existed on the season, and the season just happened.
I remember Sarah primarily for two reasons. One, it was our friend Dave's favorite player on the season at the start of the game, so I remember him being really upset when she went out. And the whole inheritance advantage, which is probably my least favorite thing in 44. Even though it doesn't end up getting played, but just
we'll get to yeah. Ingrid, how about you? Did you have any people that you're really attaching yourself to going in, and how did you enjoy the season overall the first time that you watched it?
Yeah, I mean, like Austin said, we kind of spoil ourselves on the cast relatively early, but obviously at that point you only see like a picture, a name, an age, an occupation, like that kind of stuff. You don't see like the character that they're going to become. So like, yes, I was mad at him for picking Jam Jam. I am Puerto Rican. My parents were both born and raised in Puerto Rico, so it was really exciting to see two Puerto Rican players on my screen. I was really excited about that. So I had great vibes, obviously, from Jam Jam, even from the preview, like Austin said, and Heidi. I was also really excited, like I said, for Carson. And I was really vibing with Franny. I really liked Franny in the early like preseason stuff. I feel like Franny and I would be friends in real life if we ever like were in the same area of the world together. And so I was really excited to watch her play too.
Franny was my winner pick. One, because she was my crush at the time. My crush actually changed this time around, which we'll get to later. But I was really vibing with Franny. I met Jam Jam. I met Jam Jam at a party,
Dude,
and
that's
I
my
was
dream.
hanging out with Jimmy. I was hanging out with Jimmy T from Nicaragua, and Jam Jam comes up, and they're like talking to each other. And after Jam Jam goes away, Jimmy goes, "Don't say anything," but he just played on the most recent season. I'm like, "Oh shit! Like that's cool."
Whoa!
Didn't know that he had won or anything. But it was like, yeah, it was a fun moment watching the entire season because I just didn't expect him to win. Mainly because, like, why would he be at this party if he had just won 43? You know, whatever. Question: do you like it when a player is smart enough to hack the game and or challenges? I didn't mind it because I loved Carson. We'll just start with the Carson of it all so I can get it out of the way. I don't like this archetype almost ever. There are a few exceptions, Christian, and I think
I
that
love
might
this
be it.
archetype. Yep.
Christian, that might just be it. Spencer, Cochran, Carson, Ryan from HHH. I've never really vibed with because it always the same thing of oh yes, you know, woe is me because I'm skinny white guy that and I've never had a girlfriend ever. It's like Ryan or not Ryan. What is it? Carson. It's not like you're not an attractive guy. You can't. The fact that they keep trying to pigeonhole themselves. They keep trying to pigeonhole themselves as if we're living in an '80s high school movie. Where yeah, okay, if we're living back then, yeah, probably not. But this man is very traditionally attractive, even for by nerd standards.
He was
so I don't like
crush in the pictures, and that's why I picked him first.
So I'm not a fan of Carson. Having said that, I do appreciate when people are smart enough to hack challenges, you know, especially because Survivor recycles challenges. That's what you're going to end up getting is, okay, well, if you're going to keep doing the same thing over and over again, you're basically giving people the blueprints to figure out how to game everything that you were throwing at them. I mean, people started gaming the auction. People started gaming touchy subjects or whatever it's called in the actual show. People started gaming a lot of the stuff. It was only a matter of time before they started gaming the puzzles and other challenges they had thrown at them. Do you guys agree? Do you appreciate when that happens, or do you feel like people should go in, with a clean slate? I guess.
You can go first, Ingrid.
I mean, I enjoy it. It's kind of a double-edged sword for me because like Austin and I have both tried some of these like printed puzzles. Like we both have had our fair share of playing with them and seeing if we can do them, and I think that's fun. And I think that for the people that like don't like it, I think it's mainly because of the producers end, not the players end. Because if Survivor is going to use the same puzzle so often that people can do that, I absolutely welcome it. But I think that's a wake-up call to the show. Like, you need to do something else. Like,
yeah,
I could even see, this hasn't happened, I don't think. But, like, I could see, we've been in Fiji for so long. I don't care. Like, I'm not somebody who's like, oh, we have to go somewhere else. Like, that doesn't matter to me. But, like, we have been in Fiji for so long, and there are only so many camps that they use. Like, if somebody was crazy enough, they could see, like, oh, this is where people looked for idols. That's the exact area. And then be on that camp and be like, oh, I know that this person found this thing here. Maybe something will be hidden there, and find something. Because Survivor fans are crazy. And we know this as Survivor fans. And so,
they showed Carson's spreadsheet. He was talking about how we just immediately started doing it. It's like, all right, nerd, but like I get it. It's not like we don't do the same thing.
Exactly. And so like I think it's cool that people use it to their advantage and get to show that on the show. I think you have to be careful with who you talk to about it on the show. Because some people will find that threatening. Versus like finding it cool or finding it annoying or whatever. Like I remember in Cambodia when Spencer solves that puzzle in like 3 seconds, and there's like a confessional where Jeremy's like, this man paused the television and traced the damn puzzle and figured out how to do it. What a nerd. and things like that. So it's like, I think if you can balance it well, I think it's a really cool thing, but it's also a wake-up call to production that's like, do you really want to be doing the same puzzles so often that the players know how to do them before they get there, or do you want it to be challenging and interesting
Yeah.
and the players?
Yeah, I agree.
Austin?
I think for me, I'm indifferent on it, and I think part of me does have the bias towards do I like the player or not, because unlike you, Coach, I do like this archetype because I see myself in this archetype in some ways, not necessarily like the skinny, nerdy XYZ part, but they love this game. Like, they love Survivor more than like a lot of other things, and like he 3D prints the puzzles, makes the spreadsheets. Like, I make the spreadsheet. Like, I get
That's how we knew we were going to work, because you showed me the spreadsheet and I didn't run away.
Yeah, that's endearing to me. So from the Carson perspective, I was like, oh, this is cool. Like, I like that. Like, and I do think I agree with Thinker that is kind of a wake up call to production. Like, hey, come up with new stuff. But then I am kind of a hypocrite in that because I hated the fact that this is jumping ahead a couple of seasons from where you're about to be. I hated Hunter in 46.
See, I liked Hunter. I liked Hunter in 46.
I was not a Hunter fan in 46. I found him super boring, and then I was just annoyed that he was winning all the challenges because he built them all.
Yeah, it's not, and I don't have an actual issue with Carson as a person. Obviously,
yeah.
It's more, and I don't have a problem with Carson the player pretty much until the finale. But it's just, and we had in the comments, we've gotten another Carson already in 46. And that's why, like, everyone, when we start talking about 50 and everything, and, oh yeah, who do you want back? You can only cast one of these people. And if you're telling me you're going to cast him over Christian, over anyone else, I have an issue with that, because he's not even that compelling one of his three. He's not even the most compelling of his three. He's probably the third most compelling to me as what I care about.
I don't disagree.
So there's a confessional that he has in the finale where he has his Russell Hantz / Xander moment where he's just basically saying, well, I've got this wrapped up. And it's like, I'm so glad watching it this time that I know you don't have it wrapped up, because that came off as super arrogant. But as a whole, he was fine. I didn't like what he was doing at Final Tribal. Oh yeah, you had a 33 1/3%, voting record, and he trying to coach both Jam Jam and Carolyn on how to speak during final, as if these people don't know how to talk. That is their entire thing, is they know how to talk. And I feel like it becomes more endearing that they are being themselves with it. And he's sitting there trying to coach. It's like, no, just let them go. Just let them be themselves. The question, who is the car? It's Charlie. It's Charlie. The internet's robbed God. Once again, don't buy it. As we kind of work our way through the season, like I said, the pre-merge is kind of, thankfully with these new era survivors, the pre-merge doesn't last long. Mm-hmm. The problem is that some of these pre-merges are not the best entertainment-wise. Mm-hmm. And I would say that today was one of them. I texted Austin earlier about this, like, wow, this is really dragging. And it was. And it ended,
I think, skipped parts of the pre-merge today.
Yeah, because we wanted to catch up a little bit to like see more of the post-merge stuff.
Fun stuff.
Not even like my memory didn't I didn't remember that the pre-merge was like a drag. When you had texted me that, we were still watching the premiere, and I freaking loved the premiere of this season.
It starts off like something we've never seen it before. We start with a confessional from Carolyn, and I think that was a great bookend.
Love it.
Keep on going, Austin. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good. I love the premiere. I loved the personalities. I love that's, and the person who said who's the Carson in 46, part of why I do love the season, and it's where we differ there, is this is a season where like you say 44 to me and I'm like, oh yeah, Jam, like I can list like so many people that are on this season, and like I can't say I can do that with all the 40s. Like I feel like I can do that with 44, I can do that with 42. Like you said, the Carson of 46, and I had to look over at this whiteboard to remind myself who was just in season 46 because I don't remember.
And I understand that there are a lot of folks that have issues with casting in the 40s. I'm not one of them. One, because I'm a part of the Survivor Diversity campaign, and but two, especially watching it like how I've done the last the last 44 days. I mentioned this a lot. It's always very apparent who the recruits are, and you can always figure out which seasons are heavily recruit heavy. And this perception that they only started casting super fans in the 40s is false, because it really started around 32-ish. Yeah. That's when we really start getting cast with a lot of people that just know what this game is about. And I think by like Ghost Island even, we are getting a large majority of the cast being super fans, or at least it's not obvious that they're not recruits. And Ghost Island is forgettable, but I feel like that is one thing that I remember about it, is the fact that they all came off as game players. But people like to demonize the 40s as, oh, well, we don't get any fun characters anymore. We only get game players. So and that's so false. Because
with this season.
Especially with this season, because we've got two of the final three are two of the better characters in this era, and one of them is one of the best characters that we've had ever.
Agreed.
That's where I feel a little bit bad for Carson when you were like, Carson's not even the best of his trio in like in terms of character. I'm like, well, look at the two other people in his trio. They're arguably two of the biggest characters in Survivor.
Yeah, and we can go with that trio, and we'll start with Jam Jam. I loved his confessionals this season. Jam Jam's such a great confessionalist. He's so personable. And I feel like, throughout the game, especially at the merge, people every now and then they'll mention, "Oh yeah, Jam Jam's a social threat," but we'll deal with it. We'll deal with it. But Carson, we got to worry about Carson because this guy's smart. It's like, yeah, who gives a shit? For me, it's always the social player that you really should be more worried about, unless you're a social player, in which case you just use that social player as a shield until you get rid of him. Jam Jam, for me, he has such a compelling story arc because he's not always at the top, especially during the Sarah vote. But especially during the Sarah vote. And you see him try to bounce back. And once they hit the merge, the three of them kind of do lay under the radar as under the radar as you can be when you are that three. Ingrid, how was he able to adjust, and do you feel like he had this wrapped up before going to Final Tribal, or did you think that because of what he said while he was there and how he performed is what actually got him that win?
I think that, touching on first what you're saying about how he wasn't always at the top, we, after skipping some of the pre-merge, we, land on this Mergatory episode where he like almost goes home. That's like one of the times I feel like in the new era where one of the times where our winners have been most in jeopardy is that specific vote. I think, yes, I agree with this commenter that's saying he's the strongest guy on Tika after Bruce goes. Just like, man. And like, obviously Carson's not far behind him, but he's much smaller. But like, I think it's a toss-up between him and Carson if Carson is there. But aside from Carson, I don't think he has a true competitor to go against at the end. As far back as like Franny.
It'd probably be Franny.
Like,
yeah.
Everybody in between Franny and him, I genuinely think the only person who could have given him a run for his money is Carson. while the season was airing, I would have said Carolyn. But the problem with Carolyn, and I know I'm sure we'll touch on her more, but like the problem with Carolyn is that people didn't take her seriously, regardless of what she said. So like, I think if people did take her seriously, she would have given him a run for his money. But because they didn't, I think Carson's really the only one that could have like given him a run for his money in the end game at all. And so I think by the time Carson is eliminated, he's going into that final tribal, and I think he's got it. I don't know that it's unanimous, but and it wasn't unanimous in the end, but I definitely think he's got it in the bag.
Austin?
Yeah, I agree with that to an extent. I think part of that too, I always say, like this is something I say a lot when I talk to people about Survivor, is that's what we see based on what they give us. Like I could see that there's an argument that Lauren is a threat to Jam Jam just in terms of like how many people from Ratu are on that jury. She has
That's
a
true.
great story about like being a single mother. Like people are going to want money, like want to give her money. Like I think there's compelling arguments, but like we're not going to see Lauren as much of a threat because the edit doesn't give us that, because Lauren is not ultimately there to be our
Alexis Jones effect. This is like the 4th episode in a row that I've done this, where we are hearing people say that Lauren's a threat to win the game,
And we
but
don't know
we're
why.
not seeing that Lauren is a threat to win the game. So us as an audience are like, "Oh, how is Lauren a threat to win the game?" And it doesn't. There's a disconnect there, and like the reason I called it Alexis Jones effect is because of Micronesia.
Yeah. So it's like it's one of those situations where like based on the edit we're given, yeah, I think it's like Franny and Carson are Jam Jam's biggest threats in the finals to win. But like that's also because we don't see enough from a Jamie or a Lauren, because they are. I mean, Lauren is the first boot of the finale episode. She's not really like, her story gets wrapped up pretty quickly, so we're not seeing a lot of like her game because it doesn't ultimately matter to the story that the producers want to give us. As far as Jam Jam having it like wrapped up, I think to an extent, like probably most of the jury was there. I do wonder if part of how you were talking earlier of like Carson trying to like coach Jam Jam and Carolyn was maybe there more talk on Ponderosa of a lot of people leaning Heidi, and so Carson's trying to like help pull votes for Jam Jam or Carolyn there and like help them out in that regard. So maybe it wasn't as 100%, but I do think Jam Jam has a really good final tribal here. I think one of the things, like one of my favorite final tribals is Tony's in 40 and Winners at War. Like, I think if you can get the jury laughing with you, that's a really good sign that you have a good shot to win. Like, I think that, like, that's something Tony did really well in 40, and Jam Jam does a really good job here.
Yeah, by just being himself. And like, there's nothing that he's doing there that it's like, okay, he feels it's not Chris and Vanuatu where it feels like, okay, he's like really laying it thick for like, baiting the jury. It just felt like, again, this is exactly the type of Jam Jam that we have been getting all season. And that is a thing that, when they ask, oh yeah, how did you use Carson? It's like, yeah, I used Carson for information. I used all of you for information. And don't try to label me as a follower of this jamoke on the jury. I did my own thing, and Carolyn did her own thing. And that was the only time that I felt like Jam Jam like actually was just like, no, don't you're not doing this. You're not going to say that it was Carson dictating my game, because even I think Danny or somebody else was like, Carson was the brains of the operation. It's like, once again, and I don't feel, I mean, just because I'm biased, I don't think that Carson did any work at Ponderosa to say that he wasn't the brains of the operation, because I feel like he wanted everyone to believe that. He wanted that robbed God status, which is stupid. I appreciated what we got from, and so I love Jam Jam as a person. I can't remember anything he did to warrant a win. I would have probably voted for Carolyn. I would have voted for Jam Jam before his final tribal, but his final tribal, I probably still would have been more torn between the three of them, because I do feel like the three of them did very well. But Jam Jam, I just felt like he was giving what he had given all season, And, and he was this social threat more than these other two. Strategically, none of the three of them had to be the biggest because this is a very kumbaya season,
Yeah.
which I appreciate because we don't get many kumbaya seasons. This is a very kumbaya season, so you're probably
46.
But you get to a point where it's like, okay, yeah, they're probably you could tell that they're that a lot of the stuff that Heidi and Carolyn are really resonating with the jury. And you can tell that the jury feels for them in the situation, but you can see that they can still remove all of that and vote for who they felt played the best. And I think they felt that Jam Jam played the best social game of the three of them. I wanted to touch on the Franny being a threat aspect because I remember covering this season, and I thought that is he Matthew or Matt?
Matt.
There's two of them. He's Matt. Okay. Once Matt gets voted out, which we're going to talk about that because I have issues. When Matt goes and he says to Franny, like, blah, 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 I love you, basically. I thought she was screwed. I thought she was screwed because now it looks like, okay, the juror number one has just given his support to one of the front runners in the game. And then she survives a fair few episodes, including one where someone plays an idol for her. Mm-hmm. When she is the threat, she's giving googly eyes with Matt on the jury. He's smiling at her. There's a lot of stuff where it's like, okay, why are we keeping her? Even though I want her to survive, why are we keeping her? What were y'all's thoughts on Franny as a player this season? And did you think there was any type of way that she could have made it past where she went out?
I'll go since he's thinking. I mean, I love Franny as a player. I think that she's very like you said, there's something about her that makes people want to keep her. I mean, as early as episode 3, people are talking about Matt and Franny, and they're talking about like, oh, that's a dangerous pair, and they get rid of Claire, and then they keep going, and and like for whatever reason, fine by me, because I love Franny, but and as the merge goes forward and she starts winning competitions or challenges, whatever, we watched Big Brother yesterday, as she starts winning challenges and things, like people start to see like, oh, she's like a physical threat too, and she's a strategic threat, and she's a social threat. And I think honestly, the thing that could have kept her is if she kept winning, because obviously, like, Danny saves her at the vote where Brandon goes out. We were cheering at the television that day, and like something shifts because I believe she wins another challenge.
I believe she wins
the reward.
She wins the reward challenge. And obviously that's going to mess with some people because it was technically the loved ones challenge of today. Mm-hmm. And so like she took the people she took. I think she made the right decision with who she took. She took all the moms.
Yeah.
That's a really diplomatic way to do it. But at the same time, like, she didn't take Danny, who saved her. And he is at camp like, wow, Franny's a threat. She didn't win. We need to get rid of her. So I feel like I don't know if he would have had the same thoughts if she took him or not. But at the same time, like, he's kind of the person in power at that moment. And so, like, in certain ways.
No, I see it.
Like, no, he's like, at that specific point in the game, he has a lot of power. And so, like, I feel like anything she could have done to keep him on her side is what she needed to continue forward, because he was willing to save her at one point. And so I think if she can't do that, her only other option is to win out. I really think, because as soon as he's no longer on her side, people see that as an opportunity to take her out. And I do think that her getting as close to Carolyn as she did really threatened Jam Jam and Carson, which allowed them to feel like, all right, let's get rid of her because we don't want Carolyn to be more loyal to Franny than she is to us. And they saw how voting out Franny without Carolyn went, so
Yeah,
I think they made the right move for their game.
we'll talk about Carolyn. Austin, what did you think of the showmans? You know, I think there's something to be said. People are still shooting off fireworks on July 8th.
That's too much.
Sorry. Anyway, the show has shown us that unless you are Rob Mariano and Amber Burkage, it's probably a bad idea to have a showmance that is very out in the open because they think they're keeping it secret. And like Ingrid just said, nope, it immediately still got clocked.
Mhm.
Like everyone saw that it was going on. I think the only person that didn't see it was Jamie, I guess, when the swap happened. And I think Franny gives a confessional where she's like, I don't think that Jamie thinks that
Put it
me
together.
and
Yeah.
Matt are together. How would you navigate that situation? Let's say you meet Ingrid out there for the first time and you link up that way.
Yeah.
Is there a way, because there are only 6 people on a tribe, is there a way to do this where people don't clock it as fast as they do?
I don't think so. I mean, there might be, but I mean, the only way to like not clock it is to not do it. I feel like it's, but sometimes it's just
We'll talk at Ponderosa.
it's not possible at times. But you also you don't want to be the one to say like no either, because then you're potentially risking an ally. Like in the same like token as like getting together with someone puts the target on your back as like a duo. Like not getting together with them, you may just have lost a potential ally in the game for like a number that you need. So like it's complicated. I think like I don't know. Me and Ingrid met playing an org.
Yes.
So like we kind of had that in like a digital sense, and like there were some people who knew, some people who didn't, some people who claimed that they thought, but like it's very different obviously on the online world because
you're not constantly around them,
see them
at camp and all of that. Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think they were just kind of
they were screwed.
Yeah,
they were screwed.
And I mean, like, there was an argument to make that, and I think they did when they were debating in the round where Matt goes, and it's only that small group voting. They debated. I think that having Franny almost saved Matt in a way that round of like, they were like, if we take out Matt, we're gonna make XYZ enemies, and they felt like that was like their argument to keep Matt over keep Jam Jam was if we get rid of Jam Jam, less enemies. When we get back together. So like there are ways it could work out. Like if that group had decided in that moment that not pissing off Franny was more beneficial to their game, there's a world where the showmance does work out. This group of people just didn't give a fuck. So they're like, we're gonna get rid of him anyway. But yeah, and do you want to address this really quick?
Oh yeah, that is exactly what I was going to get to. I'm going to get to that
thing real quick before we.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think the other thing with Matt and Franny is like they're so attracted to each other, like instantaneously. Like
Matt's blushing through all of his confessionals.
Like even with Rob and Amber, like they were super into each other, but they were really chill about it for most of for the beginning at least. I feel like they were flirting.
Nino has a confessional where he's like, Rob and Amber are going to do it.
Well, yes, and like they were flirting and stuff and things like that, and like, I mean, Rob's sister Nino is Rob's sister Nino. He's gonna know. But like they weren't like like running around like that kind of stuff where like that's just not who Matt and Franny are as people, and you can see that very like at the beginning. And so I think like they're kind of screwed regardless because they just are not the type of people that can hide that the way they feel about each other. And so like I think that there is a world where like people can potentially do it in a more I don't want to say nonchalant, that's not the word I'm looking for, but like a more secretive way. And like even at the beginning she like says something to Claire where she's like, I told Matt we need to spend less time with each other for the rest of the day, and things like that. But it's like they just can't help it. And so I think like that just was never going to work for them. Like they were better off just being blatant and open about it because they couldn't.
I mean, the three stayed tight and were very obvious that they were staying tight. So there is a case to be made.
It's the same type of thing, but in a different way.
Yes. So we're gonna get to this question, and then I want to get to the Matt round because there's a lot that happens there.
Oh my god!
What do you think of Heidi risking elimination? Do you think she should have gotten more than one vote to win? I think that it's a great move on her end to do that because, as we just saw in season 38, and what we didn't see in season 40, if you take the person that is your perception is this person is going to win the game, you make that move because the worst case scenario actually is that person sits next, they beat whoever you put them up a fire making, and then they sit next to you, and then you get blown out. And yes, Heidi still gets blown out in the situation, but I think that was the right move of, okay, let me do this. Mm-hmm. Let me get rid of this guy and put myself in a situation I feel like I have the best chance at winning the game. Do I think she should have gotten more than one vote? I mean, everyone votes with a different criteria. For me, I know where my specific vote would have gone, and it would have gone to Jam Jam. I mean, I can sit here and say that I think that Carolyn and Heidi potentially should have gotten a vote each, but like it didn't happen that way. But I don't necessarily feel that Heidi deserved to lose by less.
Yeah,
because I think that Heidi's always going to lose there, but I don't think that there's losing is losing, and so if we throw her at one more vote and she loses 6-2 or whatever it was. I don't think it makes what she did even more impressive in that aspect, if that makes sense. Do y'all have any differing opinions on how you feel about not only Heidi doing this, but giving up the necklace as a move at Final Four?
I know Ingrid also feels strongly about this, so I'm gonna go first before Ingrid gets on her soapbox on this one. Because we have similar, but she's a lot stronger in this opinion than me. And yeah, I think it depends on the player for me. Like me and Ingrid both have the same instance where we hate when juries knock a player for not doing it, when for all intensive purposes, like their game should stand up on its own without that move. Like I'm gonna at the season you just watched yesterday with this, because I know Ingrid's going to anyway, like the jury being so mad at Cassidy for not doing it. Like, I personally don't think she should have needed to. Like, I think there's an aspect to it where winning that immunity challenge should be equal to of what, like, fire making, you're beating one person. And yes, maybe you're beating the one person that's the biggest threat in the game. I get that. However, you just also beat that person in the immunity challenge and all the other people. Like, that arguably should be more impressive than the fire making challenge. And what I think I've seen a lot in the Survivor community, and I don't totally like disagree with, is that like fire making is such a big thing because the jury gets to watch it. They don't watch the challenges. Maybe if they brought the jury to all the immunity challenges and they watched all those, maybe that would play a bigger factor in their role, and they might not think Cassidy needs to go against Jesse and Fire or X, Y, or Z. Like, I think, especially with a 43 scenario, like Cassidy identified who can beat Jesse and Fire, and still, like, even though Gabler's the one who makes the fire to get Jesse out, it's Cassidy's decision to put Gabler in that gets Jesse out too. So I don't think putting yourself in fire should be like something that wins or loses you the game.
Ingrid?
I agree. I think that the fire making challenge is way too late to be trying to make a big move. in my humble opinion. Like, I don't think it should hold as much weight as it seems to in a lot of jurors' minds and a lot of viewers' minds. Like especially with like 43 as an example, like what the hell did Gabler do the other 25 days?
He stayed off the radar. He stayed off the radar. Like, he stayed off people's radars.
Yeah.
And like, great, whatever, right? But like,
he stayed off my radar.
there were
too.
so many people.
Don't worry, we had a big Gabler discussion yesterday.
I'm sure.
But like the thing is like I agree with what Austin said of like Cassidy is the one who put him in that position. She already won the immunity challenge. She shouldn't have to do that. And same with Heidi. Like, she won her spot at the end by winning the final immunity challenge. Like, she should not have to further prove that she deserves to be there by also doing fire making. That's the whole point of winning the final immunity challenge, is that somebody gets a spot that they earned by winning the challenge. And on top of that, like I said, I think it's way too late. Like, yes, there are sometimes an instance where like there is a fallen angel that like happens to be vulnerable at the final four and you get them out and whatever. A Rick Devens, a Harrison, a Jesse, like things like that. Like, that happens. And like, I understand that like getting rid of that person is important. But like,
because then you have no
the person, right? Like, and that's notable, but I also don't necessarily think that like being the person to make a fire faster than that person in that one instance should make you like the person to beat at the end. Like, yeah, like it shouldn't discount. And like, I saw something, a comment earlier where somebody said something about how Heidi should have tried to make a move with Lauren and Jamie. And I agree. If she really wanted a good narrative at the end, she needed to make moves against the Tika 3. Everybody did. Everybody who wanted a chance against anybody in the Tika 3 needed to make moves against them. And that's where that game would have changed and where those moves would have mattered at the end. Whereas like, all she did was stay loyal to Danny until she wasn't, and play an idol on herself.
I think where the fire making should matter is only in the event that the fire making doesn't take out that biggest threat. Like in a winners at war situation where Natalie puts Sarah and Tony against each other, Tony doesn't go. So maybe Natalie should have put herself in and made it happen, because then that does elevate her potential. Like, it elevates Chris's potential. But like when you put someone else in fire making and that bigger threat doesn't go home, then like fire making does have some sort of effect, I think, because you didn't use it to take out the person the right way.
As I'm listening to you guys talk, I'm thinking more and more about it, and I think that I may have found a new fallacy in survivor logic. In Edge of Extinction, the first time we see this happen, the first time we see someone put themselves in a fire situation, it is someone that has come back from the Edge and has only played 11-ish days or whatever, and he has to play a perfect game because he has been put in a situation where if he doesn't, he's going to lose just based off of that. He has to play a perfect game in order to win, and he plays a perfect game because he does everything that's expected of him in that situation.
Yes.
The only other time that, in season 40, I feel like the jury was right to hold those expectations on Natalie in that situation because she had only played 8 days or whatever it was, and she had to play, and Boston Rob says it when he votes. I said you had to play the perfect game. You almost did. You should have gotten rid of this guy. It's the same thing where if she had just done that, yes, we know about what the jury may or may not have done in Winners at War if it was Natalie, Michelle, and Sarah. Every other season where someone either takes off the necklace, which is only here, or puts someone at fire that is the biggest threat. Like both of you have said, it shouldn't matter what you do because you've already done everything through 26 days here. You've already done everything throughout the whole game that you don't need to
prove anything.
That you don't need to sit next to that. Yeah, it only works a situation extinction or Winners at War that had an edge of extinction.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I froze there, but I know I lagged.
And
so but I agree though. Circumstances and the history of mandatory Final Four fire making, that it would make sense for someone to do that, and this season is not one of them. I think that Heidi should have been held to the merits of what she had done in the game, period, and let Jam Jam beat Carson or let Carolyn beat Carson. I earned the spot because I already beat these people earlier today, like both of you said.
Yeah.
But I want to go to the Matt tribal, the Matt round, because not since Michelle and Fiji have we seen such bullshit. Where
this was wild.
I don't mind the twist, whatever. I mind the fact that they don't know anything, and they don't bring certain shit to challenges. They don't bring certain shit to challenges. So you are really putting someone in a situation like it's almost the defense that people use when they hate on HHH Final Four. It's like, oh, they don't know that it's going to happen, so it's not fair. I'll let it pass because I think it's fun to troll people that hate HHH. Even though I don't like it. Even though I don't like it, it's fun to troll them. Here, I'm not even the super Matt fan, and I felt like, wow, that kid really got screwed there. Like there should have been some type of grace period to say, hey, can I please go get this because I'm screwed if I don't.
Or bring their stuff to the island that they're going to.
Yeah, or just in tree mail say, hey, bring your stuff. You might want to bring your stuff, or put something in it, like even if it's like a
production goes and gets Matt grabs everyone's bags and brings it to the island, and they're waiting there for them.
It's so front, and thankfully from there the season gets better for me.
Yeah.
But today I checked out and took a nap. Because I'm like, that's kind of shitty. And I took it was a 40-minute nap because I can't take long naps right now. But I felt really bad for him. And it didn't help that was like a pretty emotional tribal. I don't really, y'all don't have to go into much depth with this because I feel like we're probably all on the same page. Is it fair or foul?
It's not fair.
Okay.
When people talk about like so and so was robbed, so and so was robbed, so and so was robbed, like blah blah blah, like robbery in this sense is when somebody loses the game because of something that they have no control over. And Matt was freaking robbed, man. He had no control over his situation in any way. He was the only person from his original tribe on there. He had no like strong allies with him. He didn't have his bag. He like the show really wanted him to like rely on the like telepathic messages he's sending to Franny on the other side of Fiji to bring his bag. It was so whack to me when Jeff was like, did somebody bring his bag? Like they shouldn't have to think about that. That's not their problem. Why are you putting it on Franny to think like, oh, Matt doesn't have his bag, he might want it? Like that's not her responsibility at this time. And like he was really up shit's creek without a paddle.
Yeah,
and was. Like it was really crazy to me. This whole like advantage that Heidi got in this round was kind of whack. Like I feel like she tried to act diplomatic about it by giving it to Lauren and like being like, oh, I'm going to make Lauren vote for Jam Jam. But like she said, everybody knew she had an extra vote. she could still vote however she wanted to with the other vote. It didn't really matter. But like, I don't like that advantage anyway. I think it's dumb.
I mean, the whole thing of this too, though, correct me if I'm wrong, because I may have like misinterpreted or forgotten or not heard. Matt's idol was fake, though, right? The idol he thought he had back at camp in his bag was fake. So the only thing he really could have gotten from his bag is a shot in the dark.
Correct, but it could have worked.
I mean, yeah, don't get me wrong. I get that. Like, it's still something. I get, but like, he wants to play the idol, so he probably doesn't even play the shot in the dark. He probably just plays the idol, and then it doesn't matter anyway. It doesn't matter,
but at the same time, like, the opportunity was there, and he, as a player, should have had the opportunity.
Yes.
Like, those
were because he
possessions.
knows that he's going home. Yeah.
Oh, and not even that. Then now he's going home, and his bag's at camp.
Oh, well, that okay. Yes, that too. As yeah.
Like that sounds dumb, but it's like.
No. It doesn't sound dumb, but
when people leave shit behind at camp, it stays at camp.
Roger left his underwear in Amazon or something like that.
I didn't realize this until several rewatches in, but like Hannah Shapiro in Millennials Gen X, I know our love, but
just go. Let me have my moment.
She. Like half of the season, she wears these like ripped jeans that have lace on them. Those are not hers. Those are Lucy's that she left behind. A freaking Gen Xer left those behind, and she wears them for like half the season. Like his like personal possessions are at camp, and he can't even take them with him because of this stupid twist where they don't get to go back to camp.
Someone could always pull a Yule and bring them to.
I brought your hat. I brought your hat, Jonathan Penner.
I feel like the winners should have gotten to go to like the sanctuary and eat, while the players that were about to be at camp.
Go back to camp.
I think that would have made the situation a little bit better.
Yeah. Did she freeze? Okay. Okay, all right. It wasn't just me. All right, I do agree. Yes, that is the perfect way to fix
think that would have
the
made
situation.
The situation better.
Send them to the sanctuary, send everyone else back to camp, and just because even in that situation, with Matt probably still knowing, because correct me if I'm wrong, and like I said, this was the last episode I watched before I took a nap today. Did they go straight to tribal, or did they have time to strategize?
They had a struggle period.
Okay.
Just at like a random beach that was not the camp.
Okay.
Exactly like an old Soka beach or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a very, I won't say it's an uncomfortable episode because I just watched 39 the other day, but like it's an uncomfortable in the realm of just this season. It's an uncomfortable moment because it's like, yeah, this is what's going to happen. And yeah, it's an emotional tribal and all of that. But like at the end of the day, he's going to go home. There is no way out of this situation. He is screwed. And so he goes off, he says his little goodbye to Franny, and we're off to the races. I want to talk about Carolyn. The character.
I love talking about Carolyn.
The character of the season. For me, I was at a party for the premiere of this, and the fact that she had that first confessional before everything started, so I go to a lot of these things. People don't shut up, and people shut up when it started like that. And I think that watching that, and then for her to, I believe, get the last confessional of the season, or at least one of the last confessionals of the season, where she's like, "Oh yeah, can you believe you remember day one when I was doing this?" Carolyn was such a compelling character this season, and a compelling player. Watching it this time around, and I was excited to see that she was going to be on Trader season 3, and jumping the gun a little bit, but I'm hopeful for a return potentially in 50. You brought up Hannah Shapiro earlier. I know that people they probably put like Franny or someone in that archetype of the Hannahs, the Aubreys, and the things like that. For me, I put Carolyn in the emotional strategic player archetype that I put Hannah in, because I sat here on day 33 and said, "Oh yeah, Watching it this time around, third or fourth time around, Hannah was the driving force of that duo with Adam, to the point where Adam even says Hannah's the one that's sitting. Yeah, Hannah's the one doing all of this. And I feel like the jury just didn't appreciate the fact that she was a very emotional and very neurotic person. And that's, I get that. I absolutely understand that. I feel like Carolyn was the exact same way this season, where she was a part of a fair few blindsides. You know, she held on to the idol most of the time until she played it on Carson and made sure that people didn't know about it. She was in on most of the things that were going on, but she was also portrayed, rightfully so, and they pointed out, they don't call it out, they pointed out in Final Tribal that she's an emotional player. I loved Carolyn this time around. This the first time I watched this. It's like, okay, I get it. Carolyn's cool. I would appreciate a return. After this, it's like, no, Carolyn is the season. Jam Jam's the winner, and I appreciate everything that he does, but Carolyn is the season. What were y'all's thoughts on Carolyn?
I loved Carolyn. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't as like engrossed with Carolyn as a lot of other people were. Ingrid in particular, I know, loves Carolyn. And so, yeah, I mean, I loved her. I thought she was really compelling to watch. I think she was a ton of fun. And I think she had a lot of game to her that got discredited that probably shouldn't have. I'll let Ingrid go because I know she'll.
Yeah, go ahead.
I love listening to you compare her and Hannah. I have not ever thought of that before. And as somebody who's watched 33 probably approximately 87 times at this point, that's a really smart comparison and a really interesting comparison. Like, I do think that Hannah is the better player or plays the better game of the two, at least in that specific instance. But there were definitely so many similarities in the sense of like, both of them went into Final Tribal and nobody was hearing their shit at all. Like, people
I thought they heard Carolyn. I thought they heard Carolyn this time around, but yeah.
They saw them in a goat way, in a way that they shouldn't have been seen. Like, Carolyn specifically, like, the thing that I think separates Carolyn from Hannah is like, and Hannah's my girl forever. I love her. But Carolyn is very like, she like goes out of her way to explain that her emotions are a strength to her game. And not even in a manipulation kind of a way, but in like my emotions are helping me make the strategic decisions I need to make kind of way. And I loved watching her kind of like get not upset, but like get loud in the sense where she was like, why do I have to be emotional or strategic? Why can't I be emotional and strategic? Like, I love when Jeff's like, get some sleep, Carolyn. And she just looks at him and he's like, are you mad at me? And she's like, yes. Like, I love that stuff. I love that she goes out there and she's completely herself. And I think that that's something we see a lot more of in the 40s. In characters, like you see a character like Marianne, a character like even Jam Jam to a greater extent. Like, these are people that like you trust them because you don't see how they could possibly hide something from you. And yet she did. She sat on that idol for probably like 20 days or something ridiculous like that. Like, she sat on that idol and didn't say anything for so long. And then pulled it out to save an ally when it counted. And like, she has her blow up after Franny goes home and blah, blah, blah. But even she says, and I related to this so hard. She was like, my emotions just need a minute to catch up.
Yeah.
And say, okay, like, I can still work with these people. Like, I need, like, I say this about myself all the time. It's like, I need to have the temper tantrum before I can do the thing. And so
Austin
like
nodded his head.
hearing like, I know, hearing like a grown, like adult woman with a child, like say that on television was so gratifying. I was like, you know that girl. And like all of her little quirks, all of her little stories, like talking about looking through her son's poo to get his teeth.
Get his tooth. Oh, so I forgot about that.
So
And I
funny.
thought that's so wholesome because it's coming from her. Anyone else is like, all right, that's weird. Like, just
Yeah, but like
wow.
she's using that as like an I am a determined woman and I'm gonna find this damn key to the idol, blah blah blah. And then like when she goes to tribal council and she sees the knight and is like, I had one of those growing up. Like, what are you talking about? But like that makes her even more endearing. And so like I remember being really upset that she didn't get any votes because she deserved votes. The same way that Heidi deserved votes. Like she played a good game and like she was gonna lose anyway.
And
Like
that's
you said about Heidi, but like I feel like I was really surprised that Franny didn't vote for her because Franny had so much respect for her in the game that like I was really surprised that she didn't make that choice. But at the end of the day, you know, you vote for who you vote for. But like I like what this commenter is saying about she's a better version of Dawn and Lisa. I agree and kind of disagree at the same time because I feel like her motherliness doesn't come out on the island as much as like a Dawn or a Lisa, despite being a mom. But like, I do think that she's thinking as strategically as Dawn and Lisa were on their seasons.
yeah. I know that the because Hannah is the one with the glasses and is neurotic that they have to put her in this nerd archetype.
They all look like me. It's terrible.
Well, no, but I put Hannah in the Dawn and Lisa archetype along with Carolyn. Like that's the archetype that when I watch Hannah, that's the archetype that I see. It's the Dawn Lisa situation of they are just as in control and in the know as their normally male counterparts with Lisa, you know, Denise, but whatever. But because of the way that Hannah looks, I think people put her in this other archetype. Oh, you're the female nerdy archetype, and it's like, well, no, you can fit into more than one archetype. But you know, I also wanted to touch on this as we start to wrap up. I also hated the one person swap with free pre-merge to production scared of someone being swap screwed. Give them a get out of jail free card. Crazy. There are no exclamation point except for the one period. So yeah, we get the swap for the first time since Winners at War, and I forgot that it happened like this. In my head, the swap happened like a swap normally happens. I didn't remember that it was just kind of like this, as everyone just switched tribes like this. I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all. And I know someone else brought up the other twist, the one that Sarah got.
The inheritance. Yeah,
this kind of harkens back, if you might, to 41, where they just felt like they had to throw a whole bunch of stuff just to see what sticks. And these two things did not stick at all, because I don't even think they did this again in 45 or 46 with the swap.
No, not like that.
No, they had traditional swaps, which is the way it should be.
They had traditional swaps in 45 and 46?
I don't know. 46 might not have had one, but 45 definitely
45 did. Has a traditional swap. It just ends up that, like, one tribe is all of old Reba plus one Lulu, and then one is all of old Bello and one Lulu, and then the last one's like 2-2-1.
Okay. So but the point being, they didn't do it like this again.
Like
correct.
No.
But there is a traditional swap. It just doesn't swap the way that we want swaps to swap. But like, yeah, I mean, I don't mind the get out of jail free card because of the way they did it, but I don't like the way they did it, if that makes sense. Like, I would have been frustrated if one of those players that was swapped by themselves was just like immediately voted out and they didn't have anything to say themselves. Like, that would frustrate me as a viewer. So I don't mind that they gave them that safety blanket and then took it away from them at the merge because they didn't need it anymore. But I think it's really it's about as bad as the swap in China.
I
in
wish
my
they would have done
opinion.
one of two things, in my opinion. One of two things that would have made it better. Give them a clue to where an idol is, maybe at their new camp. Um, like that way they have to work for a little bit. Or they could have done what they did in 41 and 42, and they could have given them all like one of those like phrases, like those beware
Oh
advantage
god.
phrases for like,
Yeah.
yeah, they're kooky and crazy, but that adds a layer to like all three of you have to agree to activate these idols for them to actually happen. And I think
Yeah.
that would have added a fun, complex layer to um to the game of whether or not people would have actually gone ahead and said their phrases.
That's fair. And especially because
I also, sorry, I wouldn't have minded like a choose your champion almost kind of a thing, like kind of like what they did in 43, but like they have to choose like what tribe they think is going to win immunity or something, and if they and like they can't pick their own tribe or something, and if that tribe also wins immunity with them, like or doesn't, like if that tribe is one of the two tribes wins immunity, then like they get an advantage or a clue to an idol or something.
Yeah.
Like just like giving them something to do
to earn it.
to like add to it. But just like I think like something like that could have been fun where it's like they are still very likely to get it, but they still have to work for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and thankfully, of the 2 rounds that we have this swap, only one person actually gets voted out.
Mm-hmm.
So it's as close as you can get to no harm, no foul.
Yeah.
So as we start to wind down, Austin, we're going to start with you. Final thoughts on the season. If you want to briefly touch on anything that we haven't talked about. Final thoughts on the season and your overall opinion of it. I know you said at the beginning where it was on your personal list, but if you want to reiterate that, feel free.
Yeah. So looking at my list, 44 is my 13th favorite season overall across all of Survivor. And a lot of that really is carried by the characters for me. I love Jam Jam. He's one of my favorite winners. If I were to do a winner ranking, he's probably in the top 5 in terms of at least like likability. I did want to harken back at one point to when you were talking about like Jam Jam played the best social game, and I agree that like at the end of the day in these games, social game wins out above all else in my opinion, and like that's just the proof is in the pudding of like you can see it. Like when you look at seasons, more or less, the season's winner is the person who played the best game socially. I think that's you can like the perfect example is to look at 32 with Aubrey and Michelle.
With Aubrey and Michelle.
And so yeah, so overall, I love the season. It's full of characters I really enjoy, people I would really like to see back. Yeah, it's my favorite. So I will say there are days where I'm like, all right, 42 might be better than 44. They're literally side by side in my rankings. Because I love Marianne as well. Like Marianne's up there as a top winner for me too. Like I love them both. But yeah, overall, very positive thoughts. I do also have to run, like I told you, of that other thing that I have to do.
Yeah,
so I
yeah.
want
Go
to
ahead. Go
throw
ahead.
out really quick.
Oh no, Austin, answer this question then.
Yeah.
2 people that you would want back for 50.
Yeah, that's where I was gonna go. Was the 2 people I'd want back for 50. Carolyn. I want to say Jam Jam, but I also want to like avoid the winners. So Carolyn, and if not, I'm gonna throw a real wild card out there, and I'm gonna say Matthew.
Okay.
The shoulder guy. I think that shoulder, like he did so much in those first few days that was really fun and really compelling. That I would really like to see what he can do if he doesn't get injured. Because he had such an impact on the game despite that with the fake idol and Jamie.
Jamie was so convinced that she had an idol the entire time.
So those would be my 2. Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. Thank you.
But good night.
We'll talk soon, man.
Yes, of course. Bye.
Ingrid, how about you? Any final thoughts on the season? And where, how do you feel about it overall?
Yeah, I don't know where my list is, so I can't give like a specific number, but like it's definitely in my top half. And I would say it's probably number 2 on my on a new era ranking, with 42 being number 1. So I am in agreement with you there. I am somebody who watches Survivor for the characters. Some people watch for the strategy. Some people watch for, other things. I don't know. everybody has their thing. For me, it's I love to watch characters. That's why I love Millennials versus Gen X so much. That's why, you know, a lot of my favorite players are better characters than they are game players. And it's just a sweet spot for me if they can do both. I do like this commenter's question, and I will try to address that.
I'm gonna get to that. Yeah.
But I think I love Jam Jam as a winner. I'm glad if it wasn't going to be Carolyn that it was him. Honestly, I loved the final 3 just from a sense of like Heidi wasn't as compelling to watch on television as I hoped. But you know, 2 Puerto Ricans in the final 3, like I'll take it. Watching Jam Jam with his accent reminded me so much of my family. I have 2 degrees of separation from Heidi, which is really fun. Somebody I worked with on a show once, she was my assistant director, is a childhood friend of Heidi's. So that was really cool to watch from that perspective as well. But like, you know, I think really solid post-merge, like you said. There are some fun little elements of the pre-merge. I love the little like Josh trying to fool them with a fake idol, and Jam Jam's like, Josh, those are beads from Tree Mail.
It's a Tree Mail.
My guy.
Isn't that
like you're not like what are you talking about?
That was a cute
like,
little.
I love that.
Moment.
I love the whole like Carolyn getting the idol and people being like, who could it possibly be? And nobody suspects her, which I think is amazing.
Yeah.
Things like that. Matthew and the fake idol. Like there are some fun little tidbits. It does drag, I agree. Which is why I have it lower than 42, because I think 42 is just entertaining the whole time. But at the same time, like I said, it's number 2 in my ratings for new era seasons so far. I mean, the only ones I really didn't like were like 41 and 43. And 41 is like not that bad either. 43 is the one that's like
goggles.
The end just makes me
41 nostalgia goggles. 40 it's fine.
I literally cried. But
I'll have to send you a video. I'll send you the video of where I was at when that happened.
Sure, it was terrible. I'm sure it was crazy. But we did get to watch an episode at a watch party with Bryce and Wendell, so that was fun for 44. It was the episode where Jam Jam won immunity and Danny went home, which was beautiful for me. I loved that. In terms of 2 people that I would like to see in 50, I have a feeling we would have the same 2. I think it's Carolyn and Franny for me.
Okay.
I think it's Carolyn and Franny for me.
For me, I this season definitely picked up in the second half when Matt goes home, like
right, which is basically the merge.
Yeah. And so for me, I'm giving it a 4 out of 5. It's going to be number 24 of 44 seasons right now. It's in between Australian Outback and Edge of Extinction. I think right now it's the second of the new age. 42 I have way up, so I don't think there's anything.
I have 42 really high as well.
As far as my DVD cover, it would be the Tika 3 plus probably Franny, maybe Danny, and let's throw Heidi in there. I'll probably say Heidi.
Yeah, I'd probably put Heidi on there just because she made the end. And then I think I would also say Franny and Danny.
No Brian. And
no. I cringed so hard when he did that in public.
That was it was almost as worse as David Murphy and Redemption Island.
Oh my God.
I didn't have to turn my head.
Much worse. It's so bad.
The people that I would have back for 50, Carolyn by far. And if I had to pick someone else, and if it's not a winner, it'd probably be Franny. Yes, you're right. We would probably just pick the same 2. Ingrid and Austin, thank you both so much for this. it's I can't believe that tomorrow's my last day of like doing it like this. It was great to it was great to have you guys on. Yeah, it was great to have you guys on for this. I
Thank you
think
for having
that
us.
similar to almost every other new era Survivor season, I think it's unnecessarily hated on because people don't like change.
Agreed.
But I think there's a lot of merit to 44. When people say, "Oh yeah, I would rather watch Thailand than any of the new era seasons," like you're a liar. You're a liar. Because these
you
are
would
not that bad.
No,
Yeah.
you would not.
So I'm looking
So
forward
bad.
to watching 45. I'm really excited for 45 because 43 through 46 I've only seen once. 45 and 46 I've only seen once, and I didn't cover either one of them on a pod. So like these are not even so close to being fresh in my head. So I'm excited to get to that.
Extra
Thank you
content.
all. Yeah. Thank you to everyone in the chat. Thank you to everyone who continues to watch these. Remember that Wednesday we're doing a live stream all day watching 46. And we're going to have all of our guests that have joined us over the last 44 days up to this point throughout that day. So I hope that you guys can join in at one point or another. And yeah, we will see you all on the other side.
Woohoo.